Thank God for cooler weather, especially you guys mowing out there. How's everyone today? Awesome sauce. Haven't heard that one for a while. I sought the Lord, and he heard, and he answered. Does that mean it was the answer you wanted to hear?
Sometimes it's better.
Usually it's better.
Yes.
Or at least better for us. You know, when we've already decided what he's supposed to say, how hard is it to hear what he's actually saying? We've all done it. Because this is what we really want him to say. But if that's not what he's saying, are we going to hear it? Probably not. We're probably going to think he either said no or just was silent because he didn't say what we wanted him to say. That's why when we ask him for something, we need an open mind to hear what he's saying. Boy, how did we get off on that? I sought the Lord, and he heard, and he answered. Sounds simple. We complicate it. We complicate it. He said, if you seek me, you might find me. Is that what he said? No, he said, you will find me. That sounds pretty definite to me. When you seek me with your whole heart. So if we're just seeking him for the answer that we want him to say, is that seeking him for his whole heart? No, that's seeking him for our own benefit, for our own selfish desire. We've all done it. At least I have. I don't. Maybe you haven't. Maybe I'm just telling on myself. But I think most of us have, because that's pretty human nature. But when we seek him to know him, when we seek him to know what he's saying to us, regardless of how we feel about it, what we think about it, what someone else says he should think about it, what someone else says we should feel about it, is what is he saying? But Lord, it looks so good. It looks like everything's lined up perfectly. But is it? Maybe he knows one or two things that we don't. So sometimes, even though something looks like this would be the perfect situation to us, maybe he knows something else is going on or is coming up that we don't know about. For an example, Steve was an electrician, and there was an opening at the company I worked for a maintenance electrician. And, nice, cushy job in the sense of it was air conditioned in the summertime, heated in the winter. You weren't crawling under houses or in attics or all of those kind of things. And great company to work for. It looks really good, right?
And I get to be with my wife because she worked there.
Yeah. We get to have lunch together. But God said no. So what do? If you're smart, you listen.
Well, after a few years of being stupid, You be stupid long enough, you get what stupid gets, so you start doing
Because
it God's way.
what we didn't know and no one else did and could have at that time was that there was in the future a layoff coming because of a downturn in economy. And that job that was hired, that the man that was hired to fill that position got laid off.
And the contractor I was working for,
It
we had
wasn't
plenty
his
of work.
fault, but the contractor that he was already working for would have filled that position, Now, thankfully, the man that got laid off was able to go back to his former job. But see, sometimes there's things we just don't know. But God does. God sees the end from the beginning. So he already knows all those things. Does that mean that sometimes we don't run out ahead of him or lag so far away behind him that we missed it? Sure, of course we do. But God. Even in those situations, he doesn't plan for us to fail, but he has a plan for our failure. Because he knows we're human and he knows we're going to fail. There are times we all miss it. I don't care who you are, if you walk on this planet, there's going to be times when you're going to miss something. But that's okay. Just like your GPS, God says, rerouting. Rerouting. We've had lots of reroutes.
Those GPS things. I think it'd be funny if one time, instead of rerouting, it says, "You stupid," just turn around,
Turn around, you missed it. No, God never does that. He just said, okay, rerouting. We may have taken a side trail, but I can get you back. It may look like this to get you there, but he can get you back. If, that little word if we listen and do. Life really is pretty simple. We complicate it just because we are who we are. But listen and do. The Lord told me that a long time ago. And when I do that, I'm good. When I don't, not always so wonderful. The word says if you walk in the Spirit, in other words, if you walk in the things that God's telling you in your spirit, you will not fulfill the lust of the flesh. It's impossible. Because the Spirit is not going to tell you to do something that your flesh is lusting after. But God, that's not a good but. But that's the way we say it. But God, I want. We all do it. We all have things that will trip us up if we allow it.
That guy looks hot, God, and he likes me, so I
That's
want that.
right.
But you don't
Why-
know what's going
why
on inside
not?
that man. Or the other
He's
way
a
around.
godly man or he's a godly woman. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, as far as you can see. Can you see their heart? Ooh. Can you see what's really in their heart? Or are you just wanting it so badly because you're lonely or because of other issues that you want companionship? Now, there's a difference between friendship, companionship, and something more. Ouch. But that's when you really have to trust God. Because they can look a good game and they can talk a good game, but what's really going on in their heart? And sometimes we don't even know what's going on in our heart because we can deceive ourselves. Real easy. And sometimes when you're especially like in a Hannah House environment, when you're in this bubble for 3 or 4 months, however long you're here, you don't know what's really in your heart until you graduate and actually get back out in the workforce. You don't really know what's going on. Because then you have to start making choices intentionally for yourself. Am I right, Ryan? Because then you have to decide, am I going to get up early enough to have my fellowship time with the Lord? Is it important enough to me that I'm going to do that? Because your flesh won't like it. I guarantee it. Am I going to intentionally take time in my day to meditate on the things the Lord is telling me? When I have my free time, what am I going to do with it? Does that mean you can't go out and have fun? Absolutely not. Do you like to see your children having fun? Of course you do. God does too. He likes to see you fellowshipping with each other and having fun with each other. Do what? That's right. He wants to spend quality time with you too, one-on-one. So you don't know what's someone else's heart is really like. What are they like when they're mad? What are they like when they're sad? What are they like when they've worked all day for 10, 12 hours and they come home and they're hungry and dirty and tired? And it is part of trusting God and getting to know someone. But so many times we go into a relationship, a deeper relationship with someone that we don't know, because we have not taken the time to know. When Steve and I were dating, he was working 12 hours a day. Our dates consisted of him coming to my house for supper after he got off work and had showered.
Living with her folks.
And I was living, yes, with my folks. And he would come home and Mom would have saved him a plate of whatever we had for supper. And he would sit down and eat it and fall asleep. Now, there's a lot of women that would have been really upsetting to them. But the man's working 12 hours a day. I mean, come on. In the heat. How would I feel if I'd worked 12 hours in his position? I'd have been tired and probably would have just said, forget it, I'm just going to bed. But see, you have to allow the other person that same grace. Now, if there's someone that gets angry and they get abusive when they're angry, that's different. But you need to know that ahead of time. Because then if you walk into that relationship, you're doing it with your eyes open. Don't ever walk into a relationship thinking you're going to change somebody, because you're not. You will never change someone. Only God and they can change themselves. They can't change you either. I know you're perfect, but, isn't that the way it is? We think we're perfect, but, everyone else is messed up. We all have our flaws. We all have our mistakes and our past and our baggage, and we all do. I don't care how perfectly you grew up. There's stuff in there. But God. I guess what I'm trying to get around to saying is, when it comes to a relationship that's more than just a friendship, and even friends, when you're in your situation, you need new friends. When you leave here, you're going to need new friends. That's why you need each other. That's why you need to stay connected to the body, because you need new friends. You need people that are going to speak life into your life. That are not going, people that are going to try to drag you back down into that same situation that you clawed yourself out of, you and God, are not your friends. They are not your friends. If they're trying to get you to go back into that same lifestyle, they don't love you. Because if they loved you, they would celebrate you coming out of it. I know that's hard to hear sometimes, because you love those people. Some of them you love like brothers and sisters. Some of them may be brothers and sisters. But at this point in your life, you can love them from a distance. That doesn't mean you don't pray for them. That doesn't mean that you don't do what you can for them. But you can't allow them to drag you back into that. And you're the only one that has a say in that. Man, this is heavy this morning. But necessary, because we all need a pep talk sometimes. There's been times when I had to give myself a pep talk. Grab yourself by the collar and say, this is not who you are. What are you doing? Stop it. Those are not fun conversations with yourself, let me tell you, but they're necessary sometimes. Because sometimes the only person that can remind you of who you are is yourself. And thankfully, you listen to yourself more than you listen to other people. You really do. Whether you believe it or not, you really do. You listen to that little tape recorder in your mind that goes around and around and tells you who you are. Sometimes you have to erase that tape and start over.
We're in a modern era. That'd be a thumb drive now.
That's true. It would be a thumb drive now. There's a few in here that are old enough to know about tapes. Oh, but God. But God. So rich in mercy and grace.
You know, really, it's
Wow.
simple. She said it, life, if you do it God's way, is really not difficult. It's just a matter of just trusting him. And there comes a point where you have to make a decision of quality. Now, what I mean by that, you sit down with yourself and say, listen, I'm going to decide to do this particular thing. I don't care how I feel about it. I don't care. This is what I'm going to do in this situation. And that is, and it's a decision that there is no turning back. In that sense, it's serious. And there's a few things in your life you need to do that with sometimes. There comes a point when you say, I'm going to trust God. I don't care what it feels like. But if I hear him and I know what direction he's telling me to go, then I'm going to do it. I don't care what it feels like. I don't care what it looks like. I'm going to trust him. And make that decision, man, that makes lots of difference. You don't have to. Some people, God will show them something, then they make a decision. Well, what do I want to do? Do I want to go this way, or do I want to trust my feelings?
Do I want to do it God's way?
When somebody says, well, God's dealing with me about this, but you lost me at the but right there. Because God says, and God's saying, there's no but to it. Just do it. That's the way I look at it.
If it's something you're not sure about, then you just continue to pray about it and hear what God's saying. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something this is the direction God's wanting you to go, but it doesn't line up with your feelings, or it doesn't line up with what looks good to you. Because sometimes he'll tell you to do something that doesn't look like it should be a good thing. But if you'll step out and do it, you'll go, oh man, I'm glad I did that. So, that's why you have to listen.
Future's so bright I got to wear shades. I have an eyes bother me, so the bright lights kind of get me this morning. So I'm having trouble seeing everybody. Chris, are you out there? There
Yep.
he is. I have a question. I'm going to ask you a question, Chris. In fact, take the mic over to him. He can answer this question.
We have to get you on Facebook.
When a higher ranking officer came to you and said, we need you to do this and that, did you say, well, let me think about it?
Absolutely not.
In military, the reason is those officers know stuff that somebody maybe, non-com, like maybe some of the guys on the grunts on the ground don't know. They see satellite pictures, they see something going on, so they say, well, I'm going to move you here to there, do these different things. So they'll order their men to do this. Now, on the ground, they say, well, that doesn't look right. But it's trust that they know what they're doing up there. And he follows orders. That's the way military works. They have to follow orders. And things work. If you had a military where making a decision, well, we'll see if we want to do that or not. You don't have a military. You just have a mob, people, So,
Not following orders costs you life.
yeah. And I kind of look at it like that. If the Lord says, this is the way we want to go, then I don't have to make a decision every time if I hear and I know what God's wanting to do. And there's been a lot of things, but everything in our life was decisions that God made, and we just went with it. The house we live in, the car we drive, the jobs we had, the fact that we're married, all these big decisions, we heard from the Lord, and we did it. And it worked out 100% of the time. We've never had a failure yet when We do it God's way. Now, there's been a few times we decided we do it our way. We had leading from
That
the
didn't
Lord.
work so well.
We felt like we had leading for the Lord, but we wasn't sure about it, and so we made a wrong decision sometimes. But if you can make that decision just to trust Him, you can trust God. And what sometimes looks like, you think, well, He's going to say something, so you do something worse than what you think. No, it's always to elevate you. It's always to do something better for you. We had a situation when we bought the car we have now, and we've had it a long time, and it's been a good ride. But we was looking for a used car, and we went into this dealership just to look for a used automobile, and he's in a particular one. He said, well, we didn't have any of those. And he said, well, we got brand new ones, so come out and listen, sit in one of those just so we can get a feel for it. And I said, well, I thought, I'm not here to buy a new vehicle. I didn't have the money for it. But he's, we were nice, so we followed him out. So we're going out. This is kind of a garage area, and we felt the presence of the Lord, both of us, at the same time. We just kind of looked at each other like, what's going on here? Kind of like you would.
I mean, like you would feel it here in church. That thick. And we're going, okay, what does that mean?
So we got over there and we sit in the car and different things. But the Lord spoke to me and said, I want you to buy a new vehicle. Okay. And on top of that, I want you to buy a 4-wheel drive too, which is more expensive still. And so I told Ruth, said, she'd agree with it, that was the Lord. And it's been the greatest automobile we ever had. And the Lord worked out the financing at that time. That was, 20 years ago, 15 years, 2007. So 18 years ago. But everything worked out. Everything worked because we listened, and we listened, and we did it. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science, as I say. And anybody can do it, whether you're 5 years old or 50 or whatever. It's just a matter of trusting God. So that's real deep this morning, isn't it? So, but no matter how far along you get, there's situations that you really, it is hard because you really don't want to go that way. And sometimes, especially if it's something that's a habit in your life that you thought was a good thing, and it's become almost a habit, in order to stop it and do this over here. And it's hard, it's just difficult. I had a situation, and it's been going on for a while. And I thought, I was doing the right thing. And the Lord told me here, probably months ago, He said, I want you to leave it alone. And I said, okay. But it seemed like the right thing to do. I mean, I'm not talking about, like stealing something. I'm not talking about that kind of thing. It was just dealing with a situation. But I do pretty good for a while, but then I'd start drifting back into doing it. And he said, quit it, leave it alone. And this went on and on. And after about 4 or 5 times, one night he said, he really set me down. The Lord spoke to me. He really was strong. And I thought, boy, I'm in trouble. He said, Steve, you've been disobedient to me like 4 or 5 times. And this is serious business, because when you start trusting the Lord and He can trust you, He starts sending you out to do things and change people's lives, and that will really make an impact. You got to be careful, because people's lives are at stake. And this particular one was. And I sit there and thought, oh boy, he's going to really, I don't know what he's going to do, but he was not amused. God was not amused about it. Because He had told me several times, and I just kept coming back to it. And pretty soon, the Lord, because when He was talking, I felt like God was up here and I'm down here in that sense. But all of a sudden, I sensed His presence, and He was sitting right, and I looked, and he was sitting right next to me. And it'll get you. And He said, Steve, because you love me, because you're my friend, leave it alone. Now, that'll get your attention. That's why He did it. Now, you'd think, after an experience like that I would have, no, I picked it back up again. I didn't pick it up like I wasn't. It was just me, myself, mainly. And I was stirring my own mind up about it, and the Lord said, I told you to leave it alone. Don't even think about it. Don't even spend time going there in your mind. And finally, yesterday, we were visiting, we were spending some time. God had spoke to us. There was a couple people that are very, in the spiritual things, they're very high ranking. And one of them was a prophet. Well, both of them are prophets, but one of them especially. And we had a good time. We were talking back and forth. God was showing us things. And we were sitting at supper, or dinner, and pretty soon she turned to me and said, listen, God's been telling you something. He said, now stop it. And she started reading my mail. She didn't even know exactly what, but I mean, it was word for word the things God told me. And I thought, this is kind of a final order. You better quit it. And so I just made up my mind. If that thought even comes in my mind, I'm just going to, nope, no, I'm not going to have any. I've got to follow, because this is serious. There's something, it doesn't look that big a deal for me from the outside now. But I can guarantee you, later down the line, I'm going to say, oh, man, I'm glad I obeyed God. Because something's going to change. So, trust Him. Trust Him that whatever He's showing you, to go with it. And I know in relationships especially, that we talked about that earlier, that's when it really gets tough. Because especially if you've been alone for a long time, and you really want to marry somebody, or you want to spend some time, really get hooked up and not have to, just the dating scene or whatever that they do it now. I don't know what they do now. But you want to get settled. You want to settle down, and you find somebody you really like, and everything looks like it's working, and the Lord says, "No, that's not the one." And you go, "Man, that's a hard one to back off from." But if you trust Him, because I know from experience I've had too. I had a messed up marriage to begin with. It lasted about 9 months, 8 months. But then I married this woman here, and we've been married over 50 years. So she was the one God chose. The first one was not what God chose. So it was just a disaster. So, and you're better off, save yourself some pain, okay? And go with the one that God, show you. And with men or women, I would say, do your best to become the man or woman that God can trust you with somebody else. Don't worry about what He's bringing to you. You try to be the best you can be and trust God. Be a man of God, a woman of God. Do those kinds of things and trust Him.
Because if you start now working on yourself, just you and God, you'll be a lot farther down the road.
We're going to go a little longer, and then we're going to do what we did last week when we're going to gather up, and we're going to spend some time all of us just talking among ourselves and letting you get input. We're going to listen to you guys. We'll give it a few more minutes. And when we do that, we're going to cut the cameras and everything so you can talk freely, and there won't be any consequences. And, so we'll be all right. I want to kind of stay with it because it seemed like God kept us there. And sometimes just telling some of our experiences, and you might be thinking about some of your own experiences, and if you have something like that God did for you, and you obeyed Him, and it really turned out good, I'd like to hear about it, So we would like to hear about it. If you have a situation that you trusted God, and it wasn't really what you wanted, but you decided to go with Him, and then it turned out well, we'd like to hear about that testimony. If you have something like that, I'm lights are bothering me. There you go.
If I get out of the chair.
Take your time.
So when my son passed away, when I found out that he shot himself in the head, I instantly trusted God. Everybody else was screaming, and I wasn't screaming because I was trusting God. And He showed me, I had a vision that there was going to be like massive salvation at his funeral. And then there was. A lot of people responded. I played Graves into Gardens by Elevation Worship as the last song. And I watched a lot of lives become still because I chose to trust Him, and I chose not to be angry and blame people. And I He gave me like a big blanket of peace, so I didn't really grieve too hard.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Where you have trusted God and you did what he said and it worked out.
Yep, I'm coming. I'm coming. I'm coming.
I said, so this whole situation, this program, this everything that comes with it, you know. So before I came here, before I even, the way I heard about this place, the way God moved, you know, I told him if he wanted, if it was supposed to happen, make it happen, you know, and he went so far to make it happen, right? And I didn't want it to happen, honestly. I was comfortable with the situation I was returning to, and it turns out, though, you know, I wasn't happy with enjoying what I was doing, right? So I trusted in him, and multiple times, almost every day, multiple times a day, he shows me over and over and over again why I trusted in him or why I still trust in him, and he's wow, it's amazing what he does. And my head, my heart, and my surroundings every single day, you know, and I'm grateful for it. So I'm glad I put a little bit of, I'm glad I had time to sit down and listen to him to begin with, because I wasn't listening. And he put me into a situation to where I had no choice but to listen. And I can't tell you how grateful I am that I listened. I know that. Every single day, multiple, over and over and over and over again, he shows me why he put me down. Yeah, he's amazing, and I know that I'm glad I trusted. So,
Amen.
When I first came to the program, I was still trying to even get involved in this case, to even have rights to be a part of my kids' lives. For like the first year that this case was ongoing, I had no part of my kid's life because I hadn't been deemed the father yet. So I fought and fought and fought for a year before I even got a paternity test done so I could even be a part of my kids' lives. But through that, I surrendered to God, and I let him take care of it, and I was patient, and I waited for him to work things out. And I never in a million years thought that God's plan for this whole situation was for me to be a full-time dad. Like, it's just crazy. God is so good, and through this program, I've been the house dad twice. And God used every second that I spent in this program, and through everything here, just teaching me and training me up for this moment in my life, and I'm so grateful.
Amen. Chris over here. John, Chris.
Man, before I come here, God had told me go to church because I don't have much family, no loved ones anywhere around, and I was feeling kind of alone. And I've always had a close relationship with God. He said, well, just go to church, and it worried me, and I was nervous. I was like, I'm not gonna fit in. I don't know anybody here. And he said to me, but it's okay because they're gonna know you. And I was saying, I don't know anybody. I was like, nobody knows me. And I get here and I walk into the Hannah house, and they know me on a completely different level. They know my struggles and everything, and it was just amazing. Like, they know you know, a deeper side of me and what I've been through, because they've all been through about the exact same thing.
And we're glad you're here.
Wow, God is powerful. I love these testimonies because I too, well, it's like Ethan said, I cried out to God and said, "Show me if you're real, or if you're real, show me." But I really didn't want Him to show me until I got here, and then I realized I was glad He showed me. If that makes sense, because like I don't know, man. Like you was just saying, man. Like I don't have much family. I got 2 sisters left and 2 sons, and this is my family now. And I never knew what unconditional love was until I walked through those doors. And I still struggle with that. Talking to your wife earlier, we had an amazing conversation earlier. And sometimes we just got to sit still and listen to God. And I struggle with that. I really do. Because I always doubted God because I was living in the wrong, you know what I mean? And it was all about self-will instead of God's will. So to see these guys growing each and every day, like the Barons and this guy behind me, James, is amazing. And Tori, Ethan, it's God is moving big things in this house, and there's going to be some big testimonies. And I see this huge picture of this guy here. He's going to be something special. He doesn't even know it yet. But I just love this program, what it did for me. It's amazing.
Okay, so I had a chance for a job and stuff, and my initiative was to leave, and I mean, he showed me, like, I walked here one morning and had a little conversation with God, and then I got here, and it was like he confirmed it, and so I started talking to Pastor Lisa about a place and stuff to rent, and then, I don't know, I guess I lost sight of God or whatever, so to speak, and, well, I'm ready to leave. I got all my stuff packed, and next day's coming, you know, and I'm out the door, and it's just like it fell through. I couldn't get put on dude's insurance or whatever for driving his vehicles because he owes so much money or whatever, and I still had a chance to leave. My mom actually had told me that she would still come get me and so on and so forth, but I chose to sit down and be patient and still just keep trusting in God because, I mean, yeah. So.
I had a similar situation, and I have another one I'll share. I won't share that one because she did that. But talking about trusting the Lord, the enemy attacked me in a way that he knew he could get to me. I've grown a lot in my faith, and he knew I was getting stronger and stronger. And he put in place a situation that he knew he could pull me from this place. And my grandchildren were hurt, and everything inside of me said leave and go take care of the situation myself. And my brothers prayed for me, my elders prayed for me. And when they say put it at Jesus' feet and he'll take it from you, that's the truth. Because there's no way I could have handled that myself without making stupid decisions. But God gave me the peace. It still hurts. But he gave me the peace to be able to stay here and help me grow even more since that time to this day. Every day I get more growth. When I think I'm ready to leave, he shows me I'm not, and I grow a little more.
Amen. We're going to I have one story, little testimony. Now, me and Tori worked on a project yesterday morning. And I didn't pray about it really. We thought we were doing good. And we were just
We
standing there
can
minding our
handle
own
this one,
business.
God. We know what we're doing.
I told her, we just standing there minding our own business, and it broke. You know what I mean? But we didn't accomplish what we wanted to. We got half of it done. But, you know, it kind of works. We got 2 more of these shared projects to do, so I'll try to pray about it next time. So it was,
You might want to lead with that.
yeah, we had a good time though. But it didn't quite work out, but it's better than what they had, so we'll get better at the next time, hopefully. Anyway, we're gonna have you, and we're gonna, Karen, we're gonna shut the cameras off. We're gonna have you guys come down for a little bit and